Yes.
Did we hear from Princess?
No.
Well, we'll start in the interest of everybody's time, respect everybody's time. We will start on time. Do we have any agency reports for? We're gonna skip call to order, correct? We have quorum,
We don't have to, yes.
or we don't approve the minutes of the public comment.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we should.
Is there anyone online for public comment or in the building with public comments?
I do.
How you doing, Cordell?
So good evening, Acting Chair Washington. I am Cordell Handler and I'm a Richmond resident. So I only have one announcement for the record. I would like to invite the North Richmond MAC to the Richmond Rotary Club weekly meeting on April 28th at 12:30 p.m. at the Richmond Country Club. Lunch is $25, so it is going to be some good food there too. Our speaker for that meeting, we will have Mayor Eduardo Martinez, who will be talking to us about some policies that are going to be implementing some new policies. So hopefully everyone will come to that luncheon. So that's it. And I do see Tony there from the mayor's office. So hi, Tony. That's it.
Thank you, Cordell. Anyone else with public comment?
I see Eleanor.
Miss Eleanor?
Hi, yes, it's me. Hi, I can say your name. From the center. Kalu, is that it? Hi, sorry. Making good contact. Anyway, I wanted to say that I really don't like what's happening with this in North Richmond, because when I was trying to speak on the Zoom, when we were in the other meeting, John Joya screamed at Tony and told him not to answer the question, which was okay. I was in the wrong place to ask the question. But what else he said was, when I said that it looked like I might be able to do the house in Resource Center, because they said on there, because they keep changing things. And then they said on there that you can now use the homes for program. And when I said about the Resource Center or something like that, John Georgia said, we don't know who's gonna do it yet. So, okay, my question is, but he may not be on, I don't know, he may be on. Who is we? This is a community that should be making these decisions and voting on these things at the MAC meeting. And another thing he said was, and maybe I didn't hear it right, I could be wrong. He said, when these people come and they bring these developers and they come and bring these programs, they're going to bring their own people. Then what is he saying? They're bringing their own people so they won't need Richmond people. And why is Healthy Contra Costa involved in the community things, as if the community has not worked for years and years and years to do this? And now all of a sudden we need Healthy Contra Costa and Rice Center. I don't understand. So maybe it's just me, but to me, I don't know. I'm from the way back when we really had to fight for something. So I don't know, but I don't like it. I don't
Ms.
like it.
Eleanor,
Right.
I'm
Yeah, my
sorry,
time up.
Are you just making a comment?
I'm just making a comment about myself.
What would you like from the MAC?
Yeah, I'm making a comment for myself that I just don't like the way this is going. It's like the county has taken it over. They would never go into El Cerrito and any other area that he covers and do this. You can only do this in North Richmond.
Yes, ma'am. I think it's still too early to tell, and we don't know how anything's gonna play out at this time. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
we
you,
have-
Eleanor. I'm gonna share your comments with the supervisor, and I think Beverly's right that there is gonna be a process for selection for the resource center. So I think that's what he may have been.
Yeah, we know that. We know
Yeah.
that. But what I'm saying you bringing outside folks in to make the decision that the MAC should be voting on. They bypassed the MAC when they, Supervisor John Joya went and let them put what is it? Request for proposal into the developers thing, and then they wouldn't let John Gilmore do it. So something's wrong. I don't like it.
Yeah, I know that in regards to Las Deltas, the housing authority is the county housing authority is the one who's responsible for the RFQ and kind of managing the sale of that land. And I know they'll be speaking later on tonight, so you could also direct more questions to them if you have any more.
Tanya, thank you for all the information.
Thank you, Ms. Eleanor.
But I'm gonna hush because I know I'm a waste over my time. But it doesn't seem like the housing authority is in charge. But thank you.
Okay, do we continue with public comment or do we stop and go to roll call because we now have a quorum?
We can go to roll call because there's no more public comment.
I started this project with Film Design. His name is Brand, and he did a study around my Richmond, I think before the pandemic. And we created this project that is a collective monument of resilience to Chevron. And so we've been hosting workshops to get everyone involved where they can draft out like their own personal message on a slat, like a long stick that we plan to install on Richmond Parkway between the community and Chevron. And we plan to put kites on the tips of the sticks of slat so that you can see which way the wind blows. And we collaborated with the Richmond Art Museum to have a special exhibition there. So you'll be able to see like life-size pictures of folks that participated in the workshops. And you'll be able to see like an example of what that face could look like on Richmond Parkway. So April 15th is gonna be the grand opening of the exhibition at the Richmond Art Center, and it's free, it's open to community. We have snacks there, food there, drinks there, and yeah, you guys get to see this project in real life. I'm excited about it, and it's called Fake Lines. Y'all can look it up at the Richmond Art Center.
Thank you, Princess. Any other public comments?
I can answer that. And I'll also add to Princess's public comment that on April 22nd, which is Earth Day, we will be putting up the slats along the parkway. So it's an extension of what's happening at the Richmond Art Center, but we'll be doing that sort of bordering North Richmond along the parkway. So if any residents want to come, that'll be April 22nd, all day, and feel free to support.
Thank you. Are there any more, any other public comments? I don't see none. We will move back up to item number 1, call to order with a roll call. Don Gilmore, Beverly Scott, Martha Nieto, Dolce Galicia, sorry about that, Annie King Meredith, Princess Robinson, here, Jorge. Now we'll move to item number 2, the agenda and minutes were emailed to everyone. Did we have a chance to review, and are we ready to go to approve the agenda and the minutes? So I seek a motion.
I will motion to approve the agenda meeting.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain. Approval of the agenda and minutes moves. Are there any law enforcement agencies here to give report?
I see Lieutenant Rodriguez. Mark Rodriguez, yeah.
Mark, are you muted? Or did you step away? They can't hear me.
I'm sure they can hear you because they're shouting. But if we don't do that. Then they can hear.
Okay, we don't hear from law enforcement agency. Is he there? You see, can you chat with him and see what's going on?
Yeah, I'll send them a chat.
Okay, we can come back. We're moving now. There are no items on number 5. Item 6 is a very long presentation. 45 minutes. That's nobody, right?
I think that's for all of them.
Yeah, but we don't have any, do we? There's nothing under 6.
There's 3.
Why you name them 7, 8, 9 to 6 A, B, C? That's my fault. Number 7, Waste Works and City of Richmond. Are you here?
Hello, we're here.
Hello.
Good evening, everybody. This is Stephanie Nye with the City of Richmond. I am here with my colleague Janae Levine Snipes, as well as Placeworks staff Jesse Jones and Spence Kohler. And they're here today to give a presentation on the schematic plans for the Shields Reed Park renovation. And I'll hand it over to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessie Jones. I'm a landscape architect from Placeworks. And I apologize, I'm phoning in today because I'm on vacation. So if my audio gets a little choppy, someone can just stop me. But I'm here because I really want to present this project to you all. I'm really excited about it. So I think you all were involved in the proposal for a Prop 68 grant with the state, which was for funding for a renovation of the Shields Reed Park. And so we have started that process now with the City of Richmond, and we are moving into schematic design. So tonight, Spence and I are going to give a brief presentation of where we are with the concept. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some additional input that we want from you all. But I want to give you kind of the big picture schedule on this so you all kind of know where we are in the design process. So we kind of started schematic design at the beginning of the year. We'll be doing concept renderings for the next couple of months, and we're going to the City of Richmond Design Review Board in the summer. Then we'll do construction drawings through the summer and fall, and then kind of finish those up for permitting by the end of the year to start construction next year. And so the timeline is kind of get all the initial input from the community as we're in the schematic design phase, which is sort of the early design phase. And then we'll move into construction drawings to get those permit drawings ready that will get reviewed by the city for construction early next year. So with that, I'm gonna ask Spence, can you start screen share? All right, can you do full screen? All right, so this is kind of our intro slide. So this is the existing playground facility at Shields Reed Park. And Spence, if you go to the next slide, once you get to full screen. You go to full screen mode on the just on the left, right there under read mode. There you go. Great, just a little bit bigger, so hopefully you all can see it. So Shields Reed Park, as you all know, had a renovation of the northern half a few years ago to get the baseball diamond and the field renovation. So this part of the project is actually for the southern part, near closest to Alamo Avenue, between Kelsey and Cherry, right behind the community center. So you can see these little white dots here. That's our project area, the part of the park that we'll be looking at. Send me the next slide. So some of you might be familiar with this diagram. This was a diagram that was submitted as part of the Prop 68 grant application. So these were some bubble diagrams that we talked to you all about almost a year ago about what types of things you all would like to see in a park renovation project. And so these are some elements that were selected by community members: a new upgraded children's play area, a space with a stage, a bike pump track, a fitness zone, picnic area, habitat garden, as well as a couple of things that are here numbered. All those numbered pieces are public art pieces, and that is also going to be part of this project. And Stephanie's actually going to present on the public art piece a little bit later. why it's important for us to kind of show those together is that they're going to be really integrated into the park. So this project got funding for a park renovation and a significant number of public art pieces. So the park renovation itself is going to be amenities and also a lot of public art improvements. And so these together will work kind of be the full park upgrade. So what we're going to present on now is just the actual park piece. Can you do the next slide? So here's a rendered version of the proposed kind of a step beyond that bubble diagram, kind of taking all those elements and actually putting them into a site plan. So I'm going to walk through kind of what those things are, and then I'm going to turn it over to Spence to spend a little bit of time on the details of what everything is. So similar to the bubble diagram, it has all of those elements that are there, but kind of laid out in space. So starting kind of from the left-hand side, the new play area for children 5 to 12. So there's an existing play facility there now and a space that's kind of empty. So we're filling that space with a new playground facility that will look very similar to the one that's there. And then for most of the renovation, kind of that big green, what you'll see is a new main pathway that connects from the basketball courts kind of into the rest of the park. What we did do in this design is we shifted the location of the stage so that we're creating kind of a nexus node right at the center of the park. So right there, you'll see the stage, a picnic area, the fitness zone. A little bit down, you'll see the restroom and some picnic areas, and then they'll all be surrounded by that habitat garden area. That will also be the entry point into the pump track. So what we're trying to do here with this design is kind of make kind of a really central area with the highest bit of activity. So everyone kind of gather in that central space. If you've been to the park, you know that this area is it's not that well used. There is a playground there now, but it has pretty low use. And so part of the goal of this renovation is to increase activity on this side of the park and pull some of the uses away from that upper corner near the baseball field and kind of pull people into this part of the park. Also add some activity into this area, primarily by using the pump track, which will be a really high use area. A couple other things to kind of note. There's some spaces here for some additional seating along the edge, along the basketball, using natural materials to create a nature play area and a habitat garden primarily along Alamo Avenue. I think we have some folks here from the Watershed Project who will be leading that effort and working with a group of volunteers to kind of to design and also maintain that area so that we have that native edge along Alamo Avenue. So Spence, I'm going to pass it off to you to talk about the areas in detail.
Thanks, Jesse. So again, my name is Spence Kaler. Move us on to the next slide. So I'm going to help dig us into the details of these different areas throughout the park. So first we're looking at the fitness, restroom, picnic, and native garden. So here we're looking at some photos showing the uses and activities that we're proposing there in the core use area of the park. The picnic areas are nestled into coves within the native gardens, and those gardens are planted with low water and low maintenance California natives. Bright, warm colors like oranges and yellows will be our palette to help accentuate and add accent colors to heavy duty wooden furnishing and the shade structure, which we'll see more of in a minute. The fitness area provides public exercise space and using simple and durable equipment. The restroom shown here is made by Exeloo, which has some unique advantages, including that it automatically locks overnight and also has an automatic self-cleaning feature. So it's a little more high tech than your standard park restroom, and we want to hear from you about that, and also incorporating art into the restroom in just a bit. So this is an example image of one of these Exeloo restrooms showing a wrap. This is not our proposed artwork, but what we are excited about this Exeloo doing is giving us a space to include some more of the public art, connecting it in with some of the other pieces throughout the park. And we're interested to hear if you're into this idea of using the restroom and connecting it as part of other pieces of the art collection, and if and what type of art to use here on the restroom. So as Jesse mentioned, there will be 8 pieces of art in the park, and it'll be part of that collection. And so our main questions are, is this the type of restroom that we'd like to have here at the park with these automatic features? And then also, how do we decorate this restroom to help it blend into the park?
We open it up for questions, I'm sorry, or are we still?
We
I'm
have a
happy-
few more slides. So there's a couple places where we definitely want to get some input tonight. So we have a couple more slides. So if you want to hold questions to the end, that would be great. But if it's really urgent, we can answer them.
Thank you. Yes, we'll definitely be answering questions. We can come back to specific slides. So this is a visual simulation of how the core area could look, standing at the basketball courts and looking east into the core. So as Jesse mentioned, we've grouped a lot of the park uses along the pathway here to create a hub of activity in the middle of the park. Activating this side of the park will help to kind of balance the energy that's going on in the pump track that you can see here in the background. The restroom is nearby here on the right, and that will include, there'll be a drinking fountain and amenities like bike racks. And so there's easy access to the restroom from most parts within the core. The amphitheater and the stage provide a new venue for community entertainment. And as Jesse mentioned earlier, we have moved the stage over into this core area. It was in the grant proposal on the north side, but we feel like consolidating these elements into the core helps bring all these uses together and activate that space a little bit more. Another benefit of that is that performances on the stage will be visible from the picnic and fitness area. And we're imagining the stage to also function as a shade structure and picnic spot when it's not being used by performers. So things that we're interested to hear from you and get your opinions on here are the stage sizing, how many people we're expecting how many performers would like to have on the stage, and also what the stage and shade are constructed of. Let me flip to this next slide. So we have 2 options that we're presenting of shade structure here. So this is a wood and metal frame shade structure. We're also, sorry, I've got myself a little mixed up here, but so there's also an option for shade sails, which I'll show later. But the difference between these 2 visual simulations are that here we're showing the amphitheater in use with a performance, and then here we're also showing in times when there isn't a performance going on, but instead it's being used as another picnic spot, and the lawn can be used for parties and just so recreation and picnicking. So this is what I was getting ahead of myself for. So in plan view, that amphitheater is shown here. We're just looking at the stage size, the general size of the lawn area. So that's about 80 by 100 feet right now in the plan. And to give you a bit of a reference as far as size, that is there's a basketball court here to the side. And so this, you can see that this area is about the size of 2 basketball courts. So that helps you visualize things. And as far as grading in this area, we're hoping to create kind of a bowl feel. And so the grade would be level around the perimeter and then would have a gentle slope down towards the front of the stage. There would be some steps down from the stage to that point. And so the bottom of the bowl might be around 2 feet lower than the surrounding area to help us just kind of create the feel of that sort of togetherness when you're seeing a performance, that communal feeling of being in an audience together with other people. And these next 2 columns are showing shade options. So the first one is a shade sail, and shade sails are great for being a light and kind of whimsical element. They can provide a pop of color. They come at a lower cost and also have a shorter lifespan than some options. But there's a couple of photos here of the common triangular shape or rectangular shape of shade sail. Sails can also be stretched over a form or structure. So we have an example of that here. And then alternatively, as we're showing in the plans, we have a metal and wood shade structure, and as well as a perforated metal canopy shown here as another option for more permanent, durable, longer lifespan shade that can come at a higher cost, but it would last longer than a shade sail. So we're curious to hear from you if you have preferences in materials used here, colors, sizing of things. So please let us know about that. Move us on to looking at the pump track. So this is going to be one of the main attractions of the park, drawing visitors from around the community. It'll be an asphalt track, a very smooth surfaced asphalt that's suitable for bikes, skateboards, skates, and scooters. So it's a multi-use track. We'll hopefully bring in wheeled sports of all types, not just specifically for bikes. The inside of the track will have safety surfacing for falls and to minimize debris getting onto the track. And the outside of the track, as you can see in this photo, will be planted with native grasses to hold the edge there and on the slopes as well. And so the grading for this pump track will be for the jumps and the bumps that will go up 2 feet from existing grade. And then as you dig down for the lower spots, it'll be 2 feet down. And so those we'll have like about 4 feet of travel going from the lows to the highs, plus the wall ride here. And then, but standing on level ground, you'll only see the track coming up about 2 feet for the pieces above ground. And just gonna try to speed myself up a little bit here. So here we've got some imagery for the new play area going on in next to the existing play structure. So this is for some older kids. So we've got some more challenging obstacles, towers, climbing nets. So we're interested in getting your feedback on the types of play here. And one other piece I should say is that this will have safety surfacing under it as well. And there's a possibility of putting new safety surfacing underneath the existing play area for the younger kids. Here we're looking at lighting, and there's a fair amount of existing lighting around the perimeter of the park, but in the new elements that we're building, we want to get your feedback on what type of lighting and how much lighting should go in. Do we want that lighting to be on after dusk, like on a timer sort of thing. So we've sort of grouped this into 3 different zones. So the existing lights are in this kind of lighter shade of yellow. And then the solid yellow would be for pedestrian lighting, new in the park. And then we have pump track lighting, fields style lighting similar to the baseball fields to the north, could be installed at the pump track. So we're really curious to see if you're interested in having that kind of lighting here in a neighborhood at night. I know that could be a really bright thing, or would it bring some feeling of safety with adding lighting? And then my last slide to show here is about fencing. So we've looked at fencing, and right now it's limited to the more like active areas of the park near basketball and these play areas. So we're really posing this question to the community of what combination of fencing would be the most useful at the park. Do you want additional fencing or a perimeter fence around this to add some safety or keep kids in when they're playing? We are proposing to remove the long fence between this section of the park and the north side sport fields, just to create some openness and potential seating to look into the amphitheater from that edge. That's a possibility. And lastly, we are also planning to upgrade the gates that have historically been used as play items and need in need of repair. So we're looking at replacing those and upgrading them as part of this fence work. Jesse, do you have anything to add that I didn't cover?
Yeah, so thanks, Spence. And so Spence, can you go back to the slide with the plan? I mostly just want to turn it over to the commissioners on the MAC and open it up for questions or comments or any feedback. I do just want to make one note about the presentation that you just saw. In the visual simulation that we put together, you saw some pieces of public art on the stage. You'll see in the next presentation from Stephanie that is a piece of public art that is going to be completed through an artist that was selected through an RFP project, an RFP for public art. And so that piece has not been determined yet exactly what it's going to look like. We're showing it schematically and how we'd like to work with the artist, but that piece it will change. So, we're not going to take it. We don't have the specifics about the artwork today to kind of to share with you all. So we're really trying to get from you all comments about kind of the flow of the park, the layout of the facilities, anything we're missing. And then the other thing is that we're going to be presenting to the design review board in a month. And we'd love to have your comments kind of folded into that presentation and do anything we can to change it and kind of get your seal of approval before we talk to the design review board. So that will be kind of our ask to you all, is if you have comments, send them to us and we'll get them back to you if you have changes. And if not, we'd love to get kind of your comments back to the design review board to know that, so they all know that you've all seen it. So with that, I'll stop talking and open it up for any questions or comments.
Anyone have questions or comments?
I have a question. What would be the best way for us to communicate back and forth with our CSAC? Considering everyone is going to have different opinions regarding this, should we do an email? Should we call you? But what's the preference for this communication method?
Cynthia has a question.
Well, they didn't answer Jorge's question. He wanted to know about communication. What kind of communication comments?
I can respond. I'm sorry. I think Jesse's line must have frozen up for a sec, but we can share the presentation with you, including the plan, and you can mark that up with any comments. You can also just write an email with bullet points. However works best for you. We're just really interested to hear your feedback. So please do share that with us, and we'll try our best to incorporate it into the plan.
Cynthia had her hand up, and then you,
Yes.
Krista. Cynthia?
Oh, yes, okay. How's everybody this evening? Okay, so I have a question about the artificial turf at the stage area. It keeps like bugging me that it's gonna be artificial turf when we're used to having grass. We're used to sitting our lawn chairs on the grass. And I also can see the artificial turf being not holding up that well and being destroyed or fading in color or something like that. And I think it would be more natural to have a grass area at the stage instead of something artificial in the park. And the other question was about the bike track, the pump track. In the original plans, we had mentioned something about putting a skating path around the perimeter of the pump track. Is that still in the plans or what?
Oh, sorry, y'all, I got kicked out of the meeting for a minute, but I'm back. And so Cynthia, thank you so much for your comment about the artificial turf. We also had some concerns about artificial turf, and so we are proposing to actually switch that to grass now, to a sports turf. The artificial turf has some issues with, it could get very hot. The plastic can get really hot, so it needs watering. So it does require some watering, and it can have wear and tear. The trade-off is that a turf grass, similar to what the turf grass is on the field to the north, can show signs of wear and tear. So it's sort of a balance. So right now, the proposal is to use natural turf. We'll work with the city's parks department to make sure that that is still the preferred approach. But we think right now that's probably the way we're going to go, just because of the the issues with artificial turf and the need for additional watering to keep it cool enough in the summer months. So thank you for that comment. I should have mentioned that in the presentation about kind of changes that we were proposing. And then for your second comment about the pump track. So in the images, you can see that the pump track can actually be used by different types of users. And so instead of a flat track around the top that's just for skating, skaters can actually use the entire track. And so there's a couple spots in there that have a rail that would be used kind of for the skaters. And the idea is that they can use the entire track. So it's intended to be not just for bikes, but for skateboards, roller skates, different types of users. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, I said thank you. I'm having issues with my camera, so you're not seeing my face, but yes, sounds good. And the fact that you're thinking about the artificial turf is a good thing.
Thank you. Princess? Hold on, Princess is speaking. From just looking at the presentation, I couldn't hear too well, so I'm about to go back and read the notes and stuff, but just looking at the slide here, there are a lot of trees there, and I was wondering if you can like lessen the trees so you can see into the park. I do like the idea of the gate surrounding the children's park, just to keep kids in. And I also like the idea of keeping the park gated all around the perimeter, but probably upgrading the gates. Okay, yes.
Yeah, I'll also say that I agree with the fencing. And then the question I have is, did the grant have gentrification consideration? Or is that something that you all have thought about?
Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of one thing to respond to the comment about the trees now. So one of the things in the grant application is that there was a piece of it that was proposing to have kind of tree separation between the stage area and the pump track. I think that was the area that's sort of in the middle of the park here, kind of right by the pathway, that we were trying to emphasize having a lot of trees. I think what your comment, Princess, about there being a lot of trees around the periphery is correct. We were thinking that would be what we would do, but hearing your concern about wanting a lot of visibility into the park, I think we could pull that back a bit more. I think what we would definitely want to do is make sure that we're using trees that kind of have high canopies so you can have clear views in. And then also working with the watershed project to make sure that these areas right at the edge of the park along Alamo are kind of kept the debris low so that you would maintain visibility. But I would kind of, welcome your comments about, this interior trees that are separating the stage from the pump track. If you think we also need to lessen those. So that was just kind of our thoughts around the trees. And then, so the next comment about the gentrification question, I'm actually might ask Stephanie to jump in on this, but my understanding is as part of the grant application, there is sort of a section about having to respond to the comments about gentrification, and that they're sort of building on the city's existing programs. There's no part of the park design itself that, there's no sort of offsite protection of residents or any displacement policies that are going into effect as part of this project. But I think it's a good question. And Stephanie, if you have anything, or Stephanie or Janae, if you have anything to add to that kind of from the city perspective of kind of overarching programs that are in place.
No, I just want to know if there, thank you for that comment. It was very good. I just want to know what the comments were. What were any concerns that we want to make sure that we address that you're thinking about as far as gentrification?
She wants to know what areas you're concerned about in regards to gentrification.
Well, North Richmond is pretty small. It's no more than 3,000 residents. So, I mean, from the huge Reed Park, you can walk 10 blocks in one direction, 5 blocks in the other. You can canvass the whole community. So it would be essentially the whole community, but I'm just curious how the park is going to incorporate some of the current residents or previous residents, and how you will, I mean, it's gonna be a beautiful park. And North Richmond is, I believe, 70% renters. So I don't know if any aspect of the park is going to incorporate any of the people who have ties to this community.
Thank you for clarifying. So yes, actually, when we were doing, we were applying for the grant and gathering all the ideas. Everything came from the residents. All of the ideas are coming from the residents. So regardless if they're renters or homeowners, everyone that we spoke to were people either that are current residents who have been there for a while, or people that have been there or just recently transplants. We looked at all types of residents and got their ideas. And that's actually how the idea of the art came about. And that's why the art is celebrating most of the resident past and present.
So the art,
in addition to this, the already existing policies that the city has in place.
So it seems like the artwork is going to incorporate the gentrification piece.
So I wouldn't say it's just for gentrification. It's just for the residents. We're not looking at it as this is going to stop gentrification, or if they're talking about displacing any residents. It's just to celebrate the past residents and the current residents. Anyone who's lived in North Richmond and the history and legacy of North Richmond.
Okay.
I like that idea. Okay, so are there any other comments or questions online?
Yes, hi, this is Latifa. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just wanted to ask about, so you talked about the shade structure versus the metal. And so I was wondering, like for these materials, would they be treated so that, like, so if you use the metal, so that the there wouldn't be an issue with rust? And then also, is there a maintenance component to this? So will there be ongoing consistent maintenance for the park? Thank you.
So I'll respond to this one. So this is, I think this is a little bit related to the comment that we got during the presentation about a need for long lasting and durable materials. And so, the shade structures that we're looking at, I think Spence mentioned that, the shade sail itself might not be as long lasting, but we should emphasize that they are, they're long lasting materials, and we're looking at things that could be heavily durable. And easy to maintain. We're using things that are not too custom, a lot of kind of standard equipment. So if things need to get replaced or things that could be easily, transferred out if they're damaged. And so that with the metal structures, usually those are powder coated steel. And so that means that they are treated for rust. And so they don't rust unless they get damaged. So if there was a damage to one of the posts, they would have to then be, sprayed to then, so that part that is exposed would not rust. But in general, they're all intended to be out for outdoor use. The woods that we're looking at would be intended for outdoor shade structures only. And so we're also have a big emphasis on trying to make sure that things are the most durable. I think what we wanted to hear from you all kind of about the aesthetic of it, kind of if like a sail with like a natural shape to it versus kind of a more rigid geometric shape for a structure. I mean, we can also do things with metal that are more natural, but we kind of are hearing this comment about the need for things that are long-term durable materials.
Okay, and then for the general upkeep of the park, is that a component that's included? So the park will be kept up by the city of Richmond, is that correct?
Yeah, so this grant application or this grant funding is only for the capital improvements or the construction of the park, sorry, and the art pieces. There is no money for the long-term maintenance. However, it is an existing City of Richmond park, and so it will kind of stay in the same way that the park is currently being maintained. It's not a new facility, so there's no need for additional maintenance to kind of like another maintenance load. And so I think that's one of the benefits of doing a park renovation is that it's kind of inside of what the city can maintain with its current staff.
All right, thank you. I see Jessica, you have your hand up.
Hi, this is Jessica. Thank you so much for that really lovely presentation. What a huge project and really, really lovely images. My question had to do, is anybody looking at the overall design continuity of all of these elements that are being incorporated? I'm wondering specifically about the art installations and the architectural elements of the landscaping and park images that you guys just showed. Because I think the aesthetic difference between the metal sunshade and the fabric one, for example, that just the aesthetics are so different in those two items that I would wonder what else was happening in the design, before choosing one or the other. So I'm just wondering if anyone is looking really at the overall design continuity of all the elements.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Jessica. We went back and forth a little bit about which of our presentations should go first, the public art presentation or the park presentation. And so our role as the prime landscape architect on the team is to kind of to seam these things together. So the ones that are on the building, so there's going to be a mosaic on the front of the community center and a mural on the back. And those images, although it's important that we pull from color and tone and texture, they're not really integrated into the actual park itself. The ones that makes the most difference is the stage, which will actually incorporate art pieces into the structure. And also there's a piece of sculptural art that you can see across from the restroom. And so those are two kind of sculptural pieces that will be really embedded in this park, or kind of in the new renovated part of the park. And then there's another piece up at Chesley that's another piece of structural art that will be integrated into the park itself. And so right now, because those artists are kind of just now under contract, that's kind of when this is going to happen, where we talk to them about kind of what their aesthetic needs are and kind of how we are going to kind of sync these things together. And so, yes, definitely we've been thinking about those pieces, but I think we also can kind of do a little bit of push and pull of what we want the aesthetic of the park to be and kind of help integrate the art pieces into that. The art pieces are going to be kind of the showstoppers of the park renovation. So we know that we have, we're working with that, but there is this opportunity to kind of sync it up with what the residents want the structural things to look like the stage and the restroom. There's opportunities to kind of go back and forth. And so the artists are kind of under a separate contract, although we're coordinating it all together as this project moves along. Hopefully
Great, good. Yeah, that's exactly what I was wondering. Also, just my 2 cents, those metal shade structures are hideously ugly. I like the fabric ones way better.
Okay, are there any other comments?
There's a comment in the chat from Leticia. I don't know if you want to respond to it, Jesse or Spence.
So the question is a question about the budget for the art and for the play structures. So I don't have it just off the top of my head, but I think the art is actually broken up into 5 different pieces, and so they each have a separate budget. And I think that Stephanie will actually go through the budget for each one because it was part of the RFP for the artist. So I don't have those directly in front of me. But in total, what's left for the actual park design itself is about 4 million. And so that includes all of the other pieces of the park. So the playground structure will be a piece of it. So we have to do a little bit of balancing about, where we want to spend the most money. So we talked a little bit about, if we have a fence, so if we're keeping the fence, that's a pretty costly piece. So if we do that, then we're going to have a little less for other pieces. So there'll be a little bit of a push and pull about how much things cost. But that's what we have for the park renovation itself. So not the public art, but the actual renovation. So it's the restroom, the stage, the fitness equipment, the tables, the structure. The pump track is separate. It's already under a separate contract, although we're integrating that with a separate designer. So that's a separate thing. But for everything else, it's about 4 million.
I have one comment and then we'll move on. Will there be a power outlet at the stage? And if not, is the park permitted to use generators?
So that is a really good question. Yes, there is intended for there to be power there. We have to be, we're gonna have to coordinate a little bit with the city staff about how that's accessed and what the power supply would be. Right now, there's no intention that this would ever be a stage for like a gigantic, festival. So like the amount of power that would be there wouldn't be, to power huge amounts of lights and things. But the idea is that there would be power there. How it's accessible would probably be through coordination with the city staff. So there wouldn't be like, you couldn't go there and like plug in your cell phone, for example, but there is an intention intended for it to have power to supply things for performances.
Okay, and will there be grills in the picnic area?
Yes, good question. They're a little small in these, but yes, they're intended to be grills at each of the picnic areas and bottle filling stations and a place to kind of wash up.
Okay.
And then I just had one clarification that Janae would like me to point out that the stage is about 20 by 30. So that's a pretty small stage. And also, it's about the size of a picnic area. So Spence gave that description of kind of how much space you would have. So the 20 by 30 area is, smaller than a half court basketball. So, you'd really have a performance of maybe 5 or 6 band players together.
And then my final comment, the committee had mentioned wanting a bulletin board of some sort, possibly at the park.
Yeah, that's so.
I can't remember.
So we're not showing a place for that right now. There is an opportunity for that potentially kind of in this core area. It might also make sense for that to be part of the community center, maybe on the front. But if that's something that is still needed, there's space here at that near the existing restroom to put something like that, if that's something that wants to be added to the project.
Thank you so much. In the interest of time, we'll move on to the next agenda item. And that's Shields Creek Resilience Hub update. Okay, it'll be rescheduled and placed on the agenda at a later date. Did you guys have a final comment? Are you guys good with your wrap up?
Is that one for us, for the parks folks?
Yeah, can you share your email too in the chat in case people wanted to follow up with more feedback? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to share mine too. I think the last kind of comment that I would add is that it would be great if we could, we'll summarize our comments and get them back to the staff person that we've been coordinating with. And if it would be possible for us to get kind of a comment or some sort of letter of support to go to the design review board, that would be really helpful for our process. And if there's something that we're not addressing that you think is really critical, we want to make sure we hear that. So that's sort of our ask of you all. And also just thank you so much for listening and also for participating in the grant application. The reason why this grant was successful was because there was so much community input, and we just really appreciate you making the space to hear this presentation tonight.
Okay, so it wasn't on the action item, but can we make a recommendation for your office to submit a letter? I think they addressed most of the concerns that we brought up tonight. So if I could get a motion to have John Reyes send a letter on behalf of the MAC stating that they have our support, and we're happy with the components of the project. Or do we want to say components and design? What are you looking for us to agree upon or support?
The support the schematic design concept.
Okay, so can I get a motion for the MAC to submit a letter in support of the schematic design part?
Yes, that one should submit a support for their concept, conceptual design.
I second.
All in favor, aye? Aye. Okay, the supervisor's office will get that letter of support to you from the MAC board. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Shrewsbury Resilience Hub, who said is not here.
They won't be presented.
Shrewsbury Public Art Projects update.
Hello again. Hi, everyone. This is Stephanie Nye again with the City of Richmond Community Services Department. I am here with Winifred Day, the Arts and Culture Manager, to talk to you guys about the Shields Reed Public Art finalists. I'm just going to be sharing my screen today, and Winifred will lead the presentation.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is a sound check. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, great. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you an update this evening. I'm not sure if all of you have received a copy of what Stephanie has placed here, but I'll just go over it briefly and then give you some more details in the end. So as you know, this is part of the $8 million Shields Reed project, and about $1 million will be spent towards the public art component, all inclusive. So the art part, as far as selecting artists themselves are concerned, we basically received the information from the Community Services Division, who've done all the preliminary work to find out what the community wanted. So our job was to respond to the information that was put in front of us. So you know the size of the park. As far as the locations are concerned, we narrowed it down to 5 locations. 1 location in the front of the building, existing building, for mosaic tile, for which there'll be art frames created as opposed to putting the tile directly on top of the pebbled stone surface of the building. And the second site is the back of the building. It will be muraled with painted directly on the surface of the building. I'll go and give you examples of the artists that we've selected when we finish here. So site 3 is for dimensional artwork that will be placed in the Habitat Garden. The site 4 is the stage. So there's a left and a right stage side. Site 5 is the Gateway Park entrance of some sort. So as you know, the existing facility has site 1 and site 2, A, B, C, and D. And basically the artwork will fit between the windows that you see. And site 3, 4A, and 4B, and 5 don't exist. So our job was to come up with some artwork and some concepts based on a little bit of information. And our little bit of information included, as mentioned before, what the community has already identified, and what we looked at as far as the continuity, which someone was asking about earlier. How does all this come together to complement the existing and the new architecture that we're talking about here? So what we looked at was a total of 17 applicants for the total of 5 locations. All of them received the RFP, which gave them background information on all of the whole project, including the amounts that we identified to be spent for each location, which we'll share in 1 minute. So we received 17 applications. We interviewed 12 artists, and within the 12 artists, we've selected 5 to move forward with. So what we're looking for today actually is permission to proceed to present these recommendations to the Rec and Parks Commission tomorrow night, which will be followed with a presentation to City Council. So we just want to make sure that you have all the information so that we can proceed with the contracts. And as mentioned before, we can't actually work on the designs of the last 3 sites until the artists are under contract. And once they are, then they'll be able to answer a lot of the questions that you have about what's it going to look like. But what we can do tonight is share a little bit of information with you. So one of the main things that we understood was important was that from a thematic perspective, that projects celebrate music and sports. So that's the underlying theme, if you will, between all the projects that you're going to see. And one person was mentioning that they're concerned about how does all this come together? Well, usually you have one art selection panel at a time. And just so you know, the panelists did include 1 member from your group, 2 members from your group, actually. We have a staff person from the facility. We have staff members from the Community Services Division. We had a member of the Arts Commission. We had a member of the community, and Stephanie and myself were the facilitators for 2. We had 15-minute interviews from each one of the artists in order to narrow it down to the top 5. We also met in the community and had an opportunity for families and children to look at the boards, if you will, for what allowed us to have the conclusions that we have about the artists that are best for this project. So normally you would see 1 panel at a time. Instead, we did 5 at a time. And that way it allows us to see how everything does in fact come together very nicely. Okay, Stephanie, can we go to the next slide? So this just gives you a sense of the mosaic tile style for the artist. This is not the only piece, but we're just giving you little samples just so that you have a basic piece of information. The artist is Javier Rocabato. It's mosaic tile. There'll be 4 panels. And you can see the style of his work. It's pretty incredible, and it got an overwhelming response from everybody who saw the actual work that day. So $110,000 is what's considered as a lump sum budget for all 4 panels, not just for 1. Next slide. This is the back of the building that has existing walls. Basically, there will be surfaces that'll be embedded into what's existing just for stability. Alexandra Bowman is the artist. She also, once again, as you can, the first one celebrated more music. This one is celebrating music and sports. And also almost all of her work, as you can see, has some diversity in a variety of ways, not just ethnicity, but she also always represents disabled populations in her work in some kind of way as well. Next slide. So this was a real schematic project because we don't know what the habitat garden is going to look like, but this artist, Edwin Marmanello, has taken both of those sub themes, if you will, both music and sports, and identified ways to create a sculpture that celebrates both. And $90,000 is the lump sum for his project. We're looking at artwork that will have little or no maintenance, that will be color fast, and secure in every way possible. Next slide. Lewis Watts, and he has teamed up with another photographer, Raymond Holbert. So this is definitely a sketch because they had no clue what the space would look like. But what they did do was a lot of research. They're both photographers who are renowned in their fields. Well, many of these artists are Richmond artists who actually live in Richmond, and Lewis Watts falls in that category. So he has done other projects that are similar, like he worked on the Rosie the Riveter project. So in terms of the understanding of how to create artwork that will have minimal maintenance requirements over a long period of time and tell a wonderful story. That's why one of the reasons why he was, a couple of reasons why he was selected as a team. So the photographs, even though they're hard to see here, are photographs he found in archives and did a lot of research to represent not only the past, but the present as far as the sports and music, and celebrating all the range all throughout North Richmond and the Shieldsbury community. Next slide is the last one. And this artist, once again, it's just schematic. So some people like the music images more than they like the sports images. And, the $70,000 will help define how many figures you get after we actually have more conversations about what's really required in order to, let's say, have all of these pieces not only created, but anchored in a way that they will be permanent, essentially, and also represent the themes that we discussed. Okay, I think that was the last slide. Yeah, okay, thanks, Stephanie. So yeah, we'll be meeting with the artists for those last 3 sites starting next month. So that'll take a couple of months for them to meet with the architects in order to understand exactly what the requirements are. All of their projects have 7 milestones that are related to construction projects. All of them have submitted their insurance, which is a $2 million requirement for these type projects. All of them have business licenses and all of the contract documents that are required before they can be under contract. So as we speak, we're working on their contracts. So I'll take any questions that you might have.
Any questions from the floor?
I don't know, it's not a question, but some comments is, one, I would like to know more about the artists, so if you could send over like their resume or past work, because I would like to know if they are, have any alignment with the community, have any background with the North Richmond community, do they have ties with the community? So definitely wanting to know more about the artists. I love the mosaic tile because it really offers up the participants part, like kids participating in it. So very kids, the children, kids get to participate in the tile aspect. I will also like suggest and encourage like a monument of butterflies to represent folks who actually lost their lives in front of Shieldsbury or just being at Shieldsbury. So some sort of art piece that can represent butterflies. And also, I don't know, but I haven't seen it, and I just passed by here, so I should have looked. But is the Shieldsbury have a new sign, like a new sign for the front? I think they do.
That's a good question. We're not planning on doing signage per se, but that's a conversation that maybe Janae can answer that question. Janae? Is there going to be signage?
I think there's already a sign. Yes, there is already a sign for sure on the front of the community center. Are you talking about
we're talking about a new sign.
But is it like brand new? Because I remember them doing some renovations on Shieldsbury, and I'm not sure if they replaced the sign that was in front.
Well, that's something we'll consider. So thank you for that comment.
Yeah, I appreciate your questions. And once again, this is just the very beginning of a multi-year project. So once we have everyone under contract and we have images to share with a document that will be basically a press release, then we'll make sure to do that. But in the meantime, please understand that that's one of the reasons why I mentioned the panel process. All of these artists had submitted resumes, and they've been vetted as people who are planning on having a community engagement component to their project. And we know that the community center will in fact have an opportunity for kids to work in some kind of way on the mural and the mosaic tile perhaps as well. But those are things that this time next year we will have an answer for. So give us some time to develop how it's going to work, and we'll let you know.
Yeah, could you note the butterfly monument too?
Oh, absolutely. I totally
Thank you.
understood. Yes, absolutely. Mhm.
All right. Any other questions or comments for this presentation?
Hello, I have a comment. My name is Ethan Rayner. I am the new restoration manager for the Watershed Project. Very excited to be part of this team and work on the Habitat Garden. The community outreach manager who has been a long participant in this discussion is unavailable to be here today, but she asked me to raise the concern about something she's mentioned before for the art selection for the 3D statue that would go in the Habitat Garden. I believe it was just the fact that, especially considering other folks' previous concerns about stylistic themes here, that perhaps like a metal structure may look at odds with the greenery and the Habitat Garden itself. But taking into account the members' comments about the butterfly thing that would incorporate both pay homage to community members, but then also be slightly more nature oriented, I think that would be a great suggestion. So if we could take that into account, that would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. With all that being said, we'll move on to the agenda. Item number 10, agency and program reports. City of Richmond Community Services Department. Do we have anyone here from the City of Richmond Community Services Department?
I'm here. Jessica, are you there? Okay, I'll just provide an update then.
I'm here.
Oh, go ahead, Jessica.
Hi, this is Jessica from the North Richmond Mobile Tool Library. And just wanted to let everybody know that we're now up and running, and we are operating down on Fred Jackson Way, Fred Jackson and Gertrude Avenue, the first and third Saturday of every month from 9 to 1. So we are a tool lending library, and anyone that is a resident of North Richmond can check out tools for free. We also support beautification projects in North Richmond. I see Pinky here. So yeah, so we will show up and provide tools for events, nonprofit events that are happening in North Richmond. So please stop by and see us. And I know Princess, you asked a while ago, I'm not sure if Princess is here, but Princess, you asked a while ago about if we were loaning tools to individuals. So the answer is yes, we are. So Stephanie, do you have anything to add?
No, nothing to add. Thank you, Jessica.
Just because. Shields Reed Neighborhood Council. Do we have anyone from Shields Reed Neighborhood Council? Moving on, Contra Costa County Housing Authority. Do we have anyone?
Hi, everybody. This is Tony Usberry, Special Assistant to the Executive Director for the Housing Authority of Contra Costa County. As we announced last meeting. Next Monday at 10 a.m., we will be releasing the request for qualifications for the sale of 28 scattered units. And they'll encompass 12 duplexes and 4 single-family dwellings. And, we are finalizing little tweaks here and there, but we're essentially ready to go. And just to give you an idea of the schedule that we will be doing here, it will be released on April 10th. Come April 25th, we're going to be doing an on-site meeting and site walk so people can actually see some of the units that they want to look at and whatever they're interested in. We'll be answering any questions they may have. We're letting anyone, all the ones that are part of this process here, the below market sales, are going to be to nonprofit entities, and we're not limiting which units they can pick. It can pick any of the, there are 42 buildings, so they can pick any of those that they may be interested in. And we'll be doing office hours, a few times before the deadline, May 16th and June 6th. We'll be doing office hours from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Via Zoom, so people can log in and ask any questions they may have about their proposals or any things that they need clarified. They can also submit written questions to us, and it'll be specified in the RFQ. The written questions will be due no later than July 3rd. They'll be, as we're getting them, we'll be uploading responses to our website so that everybody and anyone that's interested in seeing what the questions that are coming up are, they can not only see the questions, but also the responses. And then, everything will be posted by July 6th. The proposal submission deadline will be July 13th at 4 p.m. That's a hard deadline. So if you're thinking of submitting a proposal, you have till July 13th of 2023 at 4 p.m. to get a proposal written up. And then starting with July 24th, we will start reviewing them and making sure that at the very minimum, the qualifications for submitting a proposal are met. And we'll also be scheduling interviews with the top prospects the week of August 7th, 8th, and 9th. And then the selection panel will be making a proposal to our executive director to review and approve. And we will take that to the Board of Supervisors, or the Board of Commissioners, excuse me, which happens to also be the Board of Supervisors plus 2 resident commissioners. Ms. Jordan is one of them, and Joanne Segura is the other one. So they comprise of the Housing Commission. And after the board approves it, we also will then start getting into negotiations with the various proposers about what their proposal is truly going to look like. And we have to then submit that to HUD. HUD is going to be the final word on this. So we may absolutely love a proposal and send it to HUD, and HUD may say, yep, that's not going to work. And that'll be the end of that. So a lot of moving parts here. It's kind of a big deal to take, former public housing like this and sell it off and, convert it to some type of, essentially private housing. And so, HUD's very much involved here. There's a restrictive covenant, if you remember, on the below market sales. Any of the properties that are sold below market will have a 20-year restrictive covenant on them. And anything sold at market rate will not have restrictive covenants on them. We did a number of interviews. We interviewed 8 different applicants who were interested in sitting on the selection panel. And they were all really, truly fantastic candidates. In the end, we ended up selecting 3 panelists. One, Jorge Rico Rivera is a member. He's part of the MAC, so he will be part of the review panel. Lucia Cano, who represents a lot of families in the Verde Elementary School area, and Latifa, who's on the meeting today as well. So, you know, I think we've gotten a very broad interest group of people, and over the course of the next couple of months, we'll be meeting to do a little training about how to review the proposals, and hopefully get things moving here fairly soon. We hope to take everything to the board in September for final approval there. So we'll keep you posted. Any questions?
Any questions for Tony? In the room? Online? Oh, yes.
So who were the 3 panelists? Jorge, Latifa.
And Lucia Cano.
Okay.
And just so everybody knows, they have not seen the RFQ, and they've all signed non-disclosure agreements. So don't try to twist their arms about it.
All right, thank you, Tony. Any questions or comments? I don't see any hands. We're gonna move on now to CHDC. Don Gilmore, are either one of you, or is there somebody online to present for CHDC? Did I skip you? Yes. I was saving the best for last. Oh, look at that. You can show baby photos. I'm sorry, Supervisor John Joy's office, Tanya, my apologies.
Good evening, everyone. I just have 2 reports. One is that Lieutenant Rodriguez was on the meeting. He was having audio issues, but he did share reports. So I'm gonna read that for him. So he said we had 39 reports for the month of March, 330 calls for service. Select crime trends were 14 in January, 5 in February, and 4 in March. The biggest decrease has been the number of stolen vehicles recovered. In January, we recovered 7 stolen vehicles, and on February and March, there was 1 recovered each month. That's what he wrote. So if you have any questions, you can call him, or you can also direct them to me, and I can share them with him as well, and we can follow up at the next meeting. And one piece of good news that Supervisor Joy wanted me to share was that he did go to Washington this past weekend and met with Congressman Jerry Mendes. And they met with CHDC and talked about the grocery store in North Richmond. And the congressman made a pledge or a commitment to fund the grocery store and to advocate for funding for the grocery store. So we're really hoping that this time around we will secure the funding and, you know, finally have a grocery store. I know this has been a long campaign for a lot of leaders and agencies. And so at this time it feels really promising, and I want to share some good news.
Thank you. That concludes your report. Any questions or comments for Supervisor Joy's office or Tanya? Okay, thank you, Tanya. Mitigation coordinator.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Colin Dennis. As some of you know, Victor has stepped into a new position, and I'm covering his position until the process of hiring someone permanent is completed. But for the month of March, I had 39 cases where I reported either trash or illegal dumping. For mitigation, we also handed out 1,200 copies of the March newsletter. We have 2 baseball teams representing North Richmond for the year, Verde School and Shields Reed. We have 30 kids enrolled and participating in the Richmond Power League as of right now. We also have a basketball team representing North Richmond from Shields Reed, and the season starts next week. We have Earth Day coming up April 22nd, 2023 from 9 to 12, followed by a baseball game from our Little League teams. Hope you all can come out and participate in the activities on April 22nd at Lucky A's Park. Lastly, I wanted to invite you to attend the North Richmond Green Meeting, which takes place every first Wednesday of the month from 9:30 to 10:30. If you would like to attend, please contact me at kdennis@communityhdc.org. I'll put that online also. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your report. Any questions or comments? All right, thank you. Next, we have Richmond Land.
Well, I made my announcement earlier, which was around the fence lines on the parkway on April 22nd for Earth Day. So folks are invited to come for that if you all are interested in just a broader collaboration with a group of artists who are also doing the grand opening at the Richmond Art.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Richmond Land? We will move on to Corporation Richmond. Yeah, that's me, Princess Robinson. I'm a project manager at Corporation Richmond, and I help folks cooperatively organize, develop, and launch businesses basically that are cooperatively owned and ran. And so our intake process is open. You can find it on our website. We also are going to be one of the applicants for the RFQ for the Market Street Grocery Store to develop a worker-owned grocery store where all the workers who work there are in ownership of the grocery store. And so we'll be one of the applicants, and we're hoping to recruit interested folks who are willing, who are wanting to become a worker owner at a grocery store. So I'll leave that information with Tanya so folks can follow up. All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments for Corporation Richmond? Last but not least, Urban Tilt.
Good evening, this is Latifa. I wanted to thank those of you that came out for the Local Heroes and Rain Gardens event. Yeah, so we have the new green infrastructure at the farm and on Fred Jackson Way. So it's the Fred Jackson Way Rain Gardens, and it's really nice to have the new plantings there, and then also they'll serve to reduce some of the pollution that goes into the creek from the roadway. And the second part of the day, we honored some of our community members. It was really, really great to get to know some of the things that people are doing and what they've done, and some of the people that have passed away and their contributions. It was nice to see some new faces. The Rise Center, we had representation from the Rise Center and from our Growing Wiser seniors and the supervisor Joya, and yeah, so it was really nice just to have and faces from the community. You know, it was nice to see people come out, and so thank you all for coming out. And we wanted to, let's see, a couple things. Oh, you know what? Also, some of the people there, I met a couple people that had gotten their homes through CHDC, so that was pretty cool. And then as far as let's see, we're still working on the Community Advisory Committee. We want the committee to look like the community. We're currently still looking for Southeast Asian representation. And with that committee, you know, Urban Tilt had already done a lot of community engagement and got your input on what you wanted to see at the farm. And so now we're asking you to continue to advise in certain areas. And yeah, we're asking for a 2-year commitment. North Richmond residents will be compensated for their time. And also you'll have there are two residents will have an opportunity after the 2 years to serve on the nonprofit the 501c3 nonprofit board at Urban Till. So contact me if you're interested. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there any other business that warrants our attention? Everybody good with adjourning early? Meeting is adjourned.
You're going to never be.